What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. The go home episode of Raw is live as the WWE prepares for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Join us now as we analyze Raw and look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Roman Reigns getting the Benoit treatment from WWE, WWE working to keep wrestlers from getting over, one fired wrestler may be finished with wrestling altogether, some major returns on next week's Raw, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. But let's waste no further time and get straight into the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from last night's Raw. As always, we start off with the good, as number 1, a phenomenal return. AJ Styles is back and he's as vicious as ever, taking out a weakened Humberto Carrillo to advance this Sunday's Money in the Bank ladder match, showing no sign that he learned his lesson after The Undertaker buried him alive at WrestleMania 36. Raw desperately needs good heels and Styles is one of the best. AJ's promos dismissing The Undertaker's win as meaningless since there are no rules in a Boneyard match shows he's even more ruthless as he opponents off the roof of Titan Tower. The only thing that gets us is that they didn't actually explain anything. How the hell did AJ get there? He got buried alive. Surely there's some kayfabe explanation, like maybe the OC dug him up afterwards, but no explanation whatsoever. Number 2, a strong tag match. Last night's Raw was short on good matches, but the match between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders was a strong one, with both teams showing why they were two other best on NXT and why they're currently the two best teams on Raw. Although to be fair, the Raw brand needs some more good tag teams after losing the Good Brothers. As good as this match was, it exposed just how weak the Red brand's tag team roster is and that the WWE needs to start building up more teams. Number 3, stepping up with Samoa Joe. Now, we praised Samoa Joe's return to the commentary team last week, and he's already helped to improve the current team of Byron Saxton and Tom Phillips. As we noted before, Saxton and Phillips can be good on commentary, but they can phone it in when Jerry the King Lawler joins them. Not so with Samoa Joe, who likely encourages them to step up their game or risk being shown up by him. Number 4, Asuka is just fantastic. Again, like before, we've praised Asuka many times, but she absolutely killed it on the mic last night. Yeah, the promo was in Japanese, but who cares? Asuka is wild and she's full of energy. She needs to become this year's Ms. Money in the Bank. Number 5, Buddy Murphy's potential. Last night's interview with Buddy Murphy was a reminder of how good he is on the microphone as well as in the ring. The problem, of course, is that the WWE hasn't booked him right ever since he was moved to Raw, instead using him as Aleister Black's stepping stone and now Seth Rollins' stooge. As bad as Murphy's being used, last night showed a glimmer of hope with Murphy establishing why he's such a faithful disciple of Seth Rollins, as he wants to become as good or better as the Monday Night Messiah. It's likely WWE won't follow this up with anything useful for Murphy's career, but as the saying goes, hope springs eternal. And number 6, promising promos. Now, Buddy Murphy and Asuka weren't the only promising promos. Liv Morgan gave arguably the best promo she's ever cut in her run in WWE, calling out Charlotte Flair. While Morgan's wrestling ability leaves something to be desired, she has charisma and mic skills and could find a spot in the women's division if someone in creative takes her under their wing. But that was the good. What about the bad? As number 1, an uneven gauntlet match. It's long been rumoured that Vince McMahon loves gauntlet matches, and it's a good way to feature a number of stars in such a short amount of time. Unfortunately, the stars weren't out for much of the match, with Bobby Lashley's dispensing of Akira Tozawa and Titus O'Neil, I forgot he was still on the roster, two guys who had no business in a Money in the Bank qualifier match. Add in the 300th match between Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza, Bobby Lashley's stupid disqualification, along with the predictable finish with AJ Styles coming in to polish off a greatly softened up Humberto, and the match was a little disappointing. Number 2, an opening snoozer. Sometimes it takes a good trip down memory lane, but tonight's VIP Lounge segment brought back bad memories of 2019 when every Raw and SmackDown opened up with a predictable, lengthy and boring talk segment. Last night's exchange between Shayna Baszler, Asuka and Nia Jax was just that, as MVP plodded through an awful interview that showcased just how poor Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler's mic skills are. Number 3, are we watching 205 Live or main event? Last night's Raw certainly didn't seem like the WWE's flagship show at times, with far too many matches involving wrestlers who fans expect to see on 205 Live or main event. Although there were appearances by top guys like Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles, there were far too many appearances by wrestlers like Akira Tozawa, Cedric Alexander, Shane Thorne and Brendan Vick last night, and we have speculated that the WWE might be using the Performance Center shows as a way to get over new stars, but with ratings continuing to drop, it's not doing anything to help these wrestlers or Raw's ratings. Raw needs to follow SmackDown and focus more on established stars if it hopes to build its ratings back up, using newer stars in smaller doses. Number 4. Sleepy Seth. Seth Rollins has been in a run of late with good matches in the ring, but awful sleep-inducing promos that go nowhere. We get that the Monday Night Messiah wants to come off as a methodical personality, but instead he's coming off as a bit of a bore. And number 5. One is the loneliest. Seth Rollins isn't doing well as a Messiah with one follower. We've seen burner accounts on Twitter with more followers than Raw's Monday Night Messiah. Without interference, Seth just doesn't seem like a menace to anyone, let alone Drew McIntyre, who beat Brock Lesnar decisively, and not to mention the Big Show straight after. There was no Downright Ugly in this week's episode of Raw, but last night's show was another weak effort by the WWE that didn't seem like a go-home show leading into Money in the Bank or even a half-assed episode of Raw. They've clearly given up on putting any effort into their shows, and while there were some storylines being advanced, such as the Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits and Seth and Drew, the majority of the show featured wrestlers most fans couldn't care less about. But that was our analysis of Raw. Let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at WWE editing out Roman Reigns on Raw. Is he getting the Benoit treatment? The WWE just gets more and more strange every time. Now, it has been rumoured that since Roman Reigns won't be back for a while, they've made sure not to mention his name at all or show him on screen. Now, this rumour seems to have more credence after last night's Raw, where they didn't even show Seth Rollins pinning Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 31 when he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase. It's almost like he's got the Benoit treatment and erased from WWE history forever. We get that they don't want to hype him up since he's taken a sabbatical during the health pandemic, but isn't this going a little too far? This clip is over 5 years old. How's that gonna hype any fans up? Next up, an update on an infected WWE staffer. Now, the WWE hasn't released much information on its staffer who is infected with the coronavirus. While medical privacy laws prevent the WWE from releasing the staffer's name, believed to be a member of the WWE broadcast team, Brian Alvarez shared some background information on Wrestling Observer Live. There was one WWE performer who contracted coronavirus. The impression I was given is it had nothing to do with WWE, whether WWE was taping or whatever. It was something that happened outside WWE. This person was somewhere away from WWE when they got it. They never showed up to television when they found out they got it. That's like the one that we know of, so this taping and going live, I'm not a fan of it. But I'm fair, nothing has happened. Thankfully, the staffer is reportedly on the road to recovery, and no one else in the WWE has been diagnosed. Next up is WWE working to keep wrestlers from getting over. Dolph Ziggler apparently had a promo with Sonya Deville from the first May SmackDown that didn't make the cut. Ziggler would tweet, "Anyone know how to find or have a clip of myself and Sonya backstage from SmackDown Friday? They conveniently posted the Otis Mandy one, but not ours." The recently released Carl Anderson replied with his take on things, saying, "They'll conveniently leave lots of things out that'll get you more over." It's incredible that Dolph Ziggler deals with the WWE keeping him down given his talents and the company's need for more top stars. Next up, a fired wrestler could be finished with wrestling. Now, Leo Rush was one of many WWE released wrestlers, and now he may not be done only with Titanland, but with wrestling itself. Rush tweeted, "I legitimately might not ever wrestle again." In 2019, it appeared Rush was done in the WWE, having backstage heat over his refusal to deal with what he saw as unnecessary initiation rites, such as carrying other wrestlers' bags. Rush had previously done a great job as Bobby Lashley's hype man, but was taken off the main roster shortly after. A run with the Cruiserweight Championship seemed to rejuvenate his career, but now that he's been released and the indie scene has been devastated by the ongoing health crisis, he may be looking to hang up the boots for good. Next up, a change of plan for AJ? It looks like AJ Styles' Raw return happened a bit sooner than originally planned. Meltzer claims that WWE had planned on keeping Styles off television longer after his loss to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 36, but that Raw's poor ratings may have been the reason behind his return. And finally, some major returns for next week's Raw. Now, one huge return this week was AJ Styles, and as we mentioned before, he wasn't even planned to show up this week. But there are actually 3 major returns who were announced for next week's Monday Night Raw. This includes the returns of Becky Lynch, the Rated R superstar Edge, and Randy Orton. Orton and Edge have not even appeared since WrestleMania, while Lynch hasn't even appeared since the April 13th Raw, and not even wrestled since WrestleMania. There's been no word on what these guys will be doing for next week, but we look forward to their return. But there you have it guys, our analysis of Raw, including the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.